Greetings, my children! The 100-page giant. A chance to really give comic readers some great material at a low price. And how much better when it is full of reprints of horror material. While most of these stories are reprints of other comics, the first tale is a Swamp Thing story that is completely original. So let's take a look at Hollow, wherein a red-headed girl runs across some trick-or-treating children. Or are they? Well, she tells them a little story about doors, primordial ones with names we can't even begin to pronounce. She just had to see what was on the other side of such a door. There's a certain meanness in the air these days, you know? She tells of how long ago goodness left this world, believing it had taught humanity enough to carry on the good fight. But goodness is far too impressed with itself. But yes, she finds the monsters on the other side of the gate. And fortunately, there are monsters on this side too. Like Swamp Thing. And well, the little demon spawn masquerading as children. Those monsters can be dealt with by the Swamp Thing too. Next up is a tale with a little bit of homage, but also just some fun, as Blue Devil scares away trick-or-treaters from his house so he and the Enchantress can chow down on the candy that they drop. But in a nearby pumpkin patch, two adults, one with a yellow sweater and another with a black and red striped shirt, perform the ritual to finally summon a great pumpkin creature that will allow them to take their revenge on Blue Devil. The Pumpkin Sinister, which has but one command from Harley and Dennis: kill Blue Devil! Once the pumpkin is defeated, Harley reveals what this is all about. How 25 years ago, Blue Devil stole away the little red-headed girl that he loved. You're still pining for some woman from 25 years ago who went with another guy? Good grief. In Kisseret Raw Tert, the Scarecrow tells a tale of when a certain sorceress who speaks in backwards speech was entertaining the children's hospital on Halloween when a child was wheeled in, hallucinating and suffering from some sort of drug. Using her powers, she was able to tell not only the horrors that the young boy was seeing, but also who had been responsible, giving out trick-or-treat candy laced with something terrible. And so she unleashed those same terrors back upon them. Although the police reports afterwards had no evidence of such demons, merely that they had fallen prey to their own addictions. Over in Strange Cargo, we see Jimmy Olsen leading Lois Lane out on a little excursion for a story for once, having gotten a tip that Lex Luthor is trying to import some kind of dangerous cargo into Metropolis. And upon opening that cargo, they find it to be zombies! Superman comes to help when he hears their cries, but finds not only that he cannot harm them because he swore never to kill, but that they have been laced with kryptonite or magic, meaning he is vulnerable to their attacks. See, this is the problem with the cape and costume crowd, not understanding that sometimes you just have to let loose against a bunch of zombies. Fortunately, once Jimmy remarks that the zombies are already dead, he deals with them accordingly, leaving the remaining crates full of zombies to wander on the moon. That's going to be quite a surprising sight when we eventually set up a base on the moon. Over to the Scarecrow again, but this time with a little twist on a classic, the Ballad of Jonathan Crane, a school teacher in Gotham in the 1800s who plans to attend a fancy gathering on All Hallows Eve. Oh, but the children should be careful. The Headless Horseman is no doubt around. And after he enters the fancy dress party in the garb of a scarecrow, he attempts to woo a rich heiress, but is scared off by a sizable man. And on the way home, he is greeted by the Headless Horseman, wearing his traditional bot logo. And to make sure that this comic is truly giant size, we have two full-length stories within it. The first, a Lovecraftian little tale that begins with a bit of grave robbing. a man who needs to inspect a dead body. He tells the police his tale of his ship capsizing, of how years ago his friend, that he was currently unburying, had once drowned in a similar storm. But like his friend, the other crew members on the boat who went down seemed to be pulled by things unearthly in nature. He was rescued by Aquaman and Etrigan the Demon, who listen to his tale and realize that they need his help. They grant him gills and the ability to survive the cold ocean depths, asking to be led down to where the others were dragged down. It would seem that horrifying creatures of the depths have begun to emerge, a regular occurrence according to the two. Every few years, something tries to emerge from the ocean depths, coming from one universe to the next, the water allowing it to survive the trauma. It sends an army of hellish creatures first, along with the dead and drowned. And that is what befell his friend. Aquaman and Etrigan fight off the creatures and its master, who even attempts to offer Aquaman command over all the land should it allow it to pass. But as Aquaman notes, he already controls 70% of the globe, so why should he settle for less? And thus, with the help of, well, a lot of sea creatures, they push back the invasion. So I dig up the body? Well, he just needed some proof of his story, since his friend's body was recovered, still holding the St. Christopher medallion it had taken from him in the ocean depths. And finally, Night of the Reaper. A fairly average Batman story with some very enjoyable elements. For instance, it takes place in Rutland, Vermont, on Halloween. Why, even in the annual parade, we see people dressed up as heroes from a different company. How the hell they got away with that is anyone's guess, but that's all well and good. Dick Grayson fights off some gang members who have assaulted someone else dressed as Robin, and murdered someone else dressed as Batman. Or have they? For another figure is stalking this night, the Grim Reaper. Later, Batman explains that he is here to assist a doctor who had survived a concentration camp to hunt down a Nazi war criminal who has been spotted in the area. They manage to find the Nazi, but the Reaper gets to him first, blowing up his car. And yes, it would seem our concentration camp survivor is responsible for this, wanting his own form of justice against the Nazi scum. Batman must still bring him in, but in his attempted escape, the poor Reaper falls to his own death. A tragic ending for this collection, though there is at least the origin of Swamp Thing in there too. Still, some Nazis got killed, and a horrifying time was had by those of the other stories. And in the end, that's all we can hope for.